You're listening to the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast, episode 125. The risk that your teen runs when they do their best in their study. What happens when that risk pays off? What happens when it doesn't? And how can we reduce the level of effort risk so that they are investing their time and effort rather than feeling like they are gambling with it? If your teen is constantly doing their best and sometimes you're concerned about them and their life balance with that, or if your teen is not putting in their best right now and you're actually concerned about that, then this episode is for you. I'm Katie Jones, and with over 15 years in education as an award-winning high school teacher, international external examiner, and as a study coach, I've helped thousands of students skyrocket their results and confidence. And this podcast is where I share all my insights, tactics, and tips with you, the parent, so you can help your hardworking teen get happy, smart, and successful in their study, and have you both enjoy the journey along the way. This is the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast. Hey there, VIPs. How are things going? I hope you and your teens are doing really well. Today, I want to talk about effort risk. This is not a technical term. It is a term that I have created and come up with as I have been thinking about this topic and considering this episode, because it is something I have thought a lot about over the years, because I think it's easy to think that there's nothing to lose by giving something your best. But you'll likely have heard me talk before about the issues with telling teens it doesn't matter about the outcome as long as you try your best. And I did a whole podcast episode about that back in episode 9, just do your best and other things that they don't want to hear. So go check that out. I will link to it in the show notes if you want to hear more on that. Because in many ways, it is good to do your best. If we're going to do something, we may as well do it well. And there is that saying that how you do one thing is how you do everything. And there is absolutely benefit in putting your best into things, about having pride in what you do or produce and how you work, whatever that work is. But personally, I just don't think this is a totally clear-cut thing. I don't think that just knowing that you tried your best is always enough to counter a downside of trying but failing to achieve what it is you wanted to. I do think that there is a risk to doing that. And I think it's easy, and if I'm being honest and blunt here, also convenient to overlook or gloss over the risks that are involved, that consciously or subconsciously your teen might be thinking. Because from what I've observed in students over the years, and for sure in myself, is that there is at least some risk to putting in a ton of effort and giving something your best. Now, this isn't to say you shouldn't encourage your teen to put in their best effort. Not at all. I just think that it's good to be aware of what that really involves below the surface, to be aware of what's on the line. And perhaps this will also provide an explanation as to why your teen might not be willing to give their all to something in their study. So here are 3 risks that I think are happening slightly behind the scenes. The first thing I think students risk when they put effort into their study is their confidence. If we put our best effort into something and it doesn't produce the result or outcome that we hoped or thought that it would, then our confidence is going to be dented. Perhaps just a tiny bit for a short time until we bounce back. But what I've seen happen for many students is that over time, if those dents build up, they can take longer to repair, or even end up becoming a long-term big chunk taken out of their confidence, and may carry that with them for a very long time. Now, I believe that confidence comes from creating a positive result and knowing how you did it. It doesn't come from creating a positive result and feeling like it was just guesswork or fluke that got you there. That does show potential, but it doesn't instill future confidence in being able to do that again. And confidence is dented or reduced when your teen puts in their best and doesn't get the result that they thought they would or had hoped for. And this is even more the case when they don't really know why they didn't. And this is why I put so much emphasis on how and why in any student training or coaching that I do. Like on a coaching call, I will never just tell a student, oh, this part that you wrote, that's great. I'll tell them why in relation specifically to the wording of the question or the task and the criteria or what their teacher would have been looking for. And then linking these things together so that they know exactly how to make those connections in future for themselves. And I'll never just say, oh, you need to go into more detail here. We will get right into how they do that. What does that actually involve? What does it look like? How do you actually give more detail on what, in what way? Because there is a lot to this, but honestly, it's not that hard when you understand it and can properly see it in real life and how it all works together. Now, the second thing I think students are risking when they put in their best is their time and energy. Now, I'm sure that some of us have more energy than others, but it is not infinite. No one can be operating at 100% of the time. And we for sure all have limited time. So when we put time and effort into a particular task, we are taking it away from something else. Whether for your teen, that might be another task or subject. It might be time with friends or family, free time to just relax and recharge, time for sports training or music, time to be working in their job and earning money and real life experience. Anything else that it might be. So by spending more time and energy on a particular thing in their study, it makes sense that your teen will want that to pay off for them. You will want that to pay off for them so that it wasn't a waste or couldn't have been better spent on other things. And let's face it, most students would rather be doing something else rather than writing an essay or doing their homework or revising for an exam, even if they want to be doing those things because they want to do well. They are giving up something, probably almost anything else, that might be more enjoyable for them. And there is nothing wrong with that. We can't enjoy all parts of life all of the time. That is life. And we do need to put work in to get results. But it means that the outcome or result that comes from that study or task, we want it to be good. We want it to be a positive outcome. Now, of course, we cannot judge this balance of time and effort to outcome ratio perfectly all of the time. The problem, though, is that if your teen repeatedly puts their time and energy into study that isn't giving them the reward in terms of pride, satisfaction, enjoyment, or hard and fast results in terms of scores or grades, then I see this often go one of two ways. They either stop putting in as much time and energy, or they decide that they need to put in more time and energy in order to get the outcomes that they're after. Now, I was definitely the latter as a student, but I see and hear both from the students that I work with and the parents that I talk to. Now, obviously, the ideal is that they spend a reasonable, appropriate, proportionate amount of time on their study and get the results that at least match that effort and their ability. Though I will say I am all about pushing that boundary as far as possible in terms of maximizing that outcome and have them still have time and energy for other things. In fact, we want to steer as far in the direction of maximizing the results compared to effort and time ratio as possible. So they not only see the point in putting in the effort and are motivated to do so, but so they also don't feel like they need to be putting in even more effort to compensate for a disproportionately negative result and don't negatively impact then their life balance. Now, finally, the third thing that I see students risking when they do their best is their self-belief and pride. And I do think this is slightly different to confidence. Now, I remember as a student always downplaying, aka lying, to my friends about how much time I'd spent revising for a test or how much I cared about a result that I got. Outwardly, I just didn't want to look like a geek. And inwardly, I just didn't really want to admit how big or how good that outcome would need to have been to match the effort or time that I had put in. And if we publicly or privately put in a lot of time and effort into something, then it can feel like a not very pleasant combination of disappointment and embarrassment if that doesn't translate into a result that matches. It's basically the opposite feeling of pride. And your teen can cover that up to others, including you, but they know it in themselves. You did your best and it wasn't good enough is basically the message that our brains take away, and it doesn't do much for our self-belief. And that's why if we feel like we don't have much control over the outcome, which is what it feels like when we're guessing our way through an assignment or waffling in an essay or randomly revising, then the only logical thing we do have control over is how much time and effort we put in. And that's where I start to see that decline for students. Either they start putting in not as much effort, they kind of start to give up, not because they don't care about their study or results, but because it's kind of a self-defense mechanism in that if they don't try so hard, then they won't be disappointed if the result isn't what they really want. It's actually going to make sense. It's not because I'm not smart, it's because I didn't try as hard. Gosh, this one really makes me so sad to see, which is why I really want to help your teen take control over their results, not just the time or effort they're putting in. Give them control over how they tackle tasks and have them study with a ton more clarity, understanding of what is going on, and insight in how to actually succeed. Because on the flip side, let's finish on a high, shall we? After all this depressing talk and negativity, these risks, in inverted commas, can, of course, pay off. Your teen can put in time, effort, and energy, and it can result in a great outcome. And when they do, they will feel that pride, their confidence and self-belief will increase, and it will feel like a worthwhile and positive use of their time. I always remember Tammy, mum of Josh, saying to me, "The effort is now worth it for the result." Those are her exact words. It has always stuck with me. Because the point here is that there is a risk to teens putting in effort and doing their best, which is why I'm doing my best to stack the odds massively in your teen's favor. Because this should not be about guesswork. This shouldn't feel like a gamble. There is strategy and skill involved, and there are tactics and techniques that will mean they can reduce the amount of time and energy that they have to risk by making their study more efficient and actually increase their likelihood of success at the same time. So here's to taking calculated and measured risks, because they will still be spending their time and effort and energy. They absolutely still need to put those in, but I want them to have it, A, pay off, and B, be a solid investment rather than a gamble. So thank you so much for joining me for this episode. As you can tell, I have a lot to say and share on this. If you have found this episode or anything on the podcast helpful, I would really appreciate it if you would do either of these things. Either leave a rating and review on iTunes or Spotify, or share this podcast with a friend who you think might also find it helpful. The easiest way is just to take a screenshot and message that to them. If you do both of those things, leave a rating and review and share it, I will be sending you a virtual teacher gold star. Because this will really help me to help more people. I just cannot get to everyone who needs this information on my own, unfortunately. I am trying my best. Nice little full circle moment there. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll meet you back here on the podcast next time. See you soon. Bye. If you're ready to have your teen achieve their best possible results with less stress, then I want to invite you to enroll them in the 10-week Grade Transformation Program, where they're going to learn the key concepts, skills, and strategies to catapult their performance in assessments and exams. It's risk-free. They either achieve bigger and better results with a whole lot more confidence in 10 weeks, or we refund you in full. Just head over to www.rocksolidstudy.com/program, and I'll see you there.